Luke. Because sometimes truth isn't good enough.
I feel the need for speed.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna?
Because it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den. Super proud of that little James Bond intro I cobbled together on my own by my bad self there. We're going to bring King Z in real quick. We got a big day's worth of topics, but we do have a little bit of housekeeping we're going to touch on first there, of course. Welcome back, King Z. We want to bring up our Remembrance photo right quick, just so we can give that its due. Today is, of course, 9/11. We're never going to forget. We're over 20 some odd years now. We're coming 23 years. I can do my math.
23 years.
23 years. I still remember where I was, but we're not going to get big into that. Just wanted to say thank you for everybody that's served, like my co-pilot King Z. He's a good man, great man, and we're not forgetting anybody that didn't get off those planes the way we wanted them to. King Z, whatever you'd like to add to that little remembrance right there, take the floor, brother.
It's very rare as a generation that you actually live through a true watershed moment that changes history. Changes the projection of the world, not just a community, not just a country, but in the entire world. This reshaped so much. It's different when it happens in your backyard. You know, you see stuff around the world, and it's just kind of different when it happens at home. For all the people who lost their life that day in the Twin Towers, at the Pentagon, Flight 93.
Hero Flight 93. Fact.
Yeah, it would. There's not much you can say other than, you know, never forget. And yeah.
So we're gonna move from that little bit of solemn remembrance into our first topic, which is no less solemn, I guess, and kind of sad. You know, we lost a big legend yesterday. Big legend in the world of Hollywood and Broadway. I didn't even realize that. Mr. James Earl Jones had a big stage career. That's, you know, my bad. I just didn't know. But I mean, we're talking about a guy that voiced, at least in our lifetime, 3, 4, 5 major characters and major things we're never going to forget. You know, it's iconic, and the voice will it'll echo through Hollywood and through storytelling for forever. So in respect and in reverence of James Earl Jones' passing, we just threw together a quick little clip here. It's about a minute and a half. I'm going to ask King Z to cue it up. It's just some of my favorite moments here in no particular order.
Remember who you are. You are my son and the one true king.
The one constant through all the years, Ray,
much better
has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come. Yes. You know what it is, don't you, boy? Shall I tell you? Steel isn't strong, boy. Flesh is stronger.
A part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away. Don't know the power of the dark side. I find your lack of faith disturbing. I am your father.
Try not to make a sound.
What are you telling him, Mufasa?
His son was awake.
Before sunrise, he's your son.
Dad, come on.
I try to end it on like an upbeat one, you know what I mean? That's our little tribute there to James Earl Jones. There's so many more clips that I couldn't cram in and not make like just like a 10-minute cliptage video. Like it took me hours just to distill it down to that. And I left out a couple of the ones that you mentioned. I left out Driving Miss Daisy. I left out Hunt for Red October.
The Sandlot.
I couldn't find a great clip from that. You know what I mean? Like he was a small role in the movie, but there wasn't a memorable punchline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Admiral Greer from the Jack Ryan series with Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
He's just
so many things.
The father in Coming to America.
Oh, he was the king. That's right. King Zamunda. That's right, dude. Dude, stop the show. Cut it. We're going to go live tomorrow. I'm going to go get some bangers there because the King of Zamunda, probably the third funniest character in that movie behind Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Jones. We need to do a video on Coming to America, number one. But yeah, dude, the James Earl Jones, once in a 5 generational voice, like it's the kind of voice that you can hear all of those lines, even if you're just reading them on paper. You know what I mean? Like it automatically plays in your brain. Your father, and get that modulated slightly tone. It's so good, so good.
So he did a guest appearance on the show Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon meets him.
I know that one.
And they have their night of fun, and then they pranked out, or they go, Terry Fisher do the ding dong and ditch on her, and
she comes out with a bat and she's like, "It's not funny, James."
Yeah. Then why am I laughing?
Dude, I know. Dude, that's off camera, off screen. That was so good. Dude, do you remember the part when they were on top of the Ferris wheel and he's up there, he goes, "I'm on a Ferris wheel with James Earl Jones, and he's nicer than you think." And James Earl Jones is like, "I am." That shit was funny. Dude, that's cable TV show funny. I don't know, man. I get it's cheesy, but I cracked up with that.
But did you know on that show is the first time Terry Fisher and James Earl Jones actually met?
How could that be?
Because he was never on set. He just did the voiceover.
No, I know he did the voice. I just find that that's wildly implausible. You think after all those years, you know what I mean? No, at cons or, just like having table reads for the voices. She didn't meet him in a table read.
No.
It's so weird. How does Leia not meet Darth Vader in a table read?
How did she not meet her father?
Because it wasn't her father, but until episode 5, that's neither here nor there. We don't want to talk about that. We don't endorse the lifestyle on Winterworld's Den. Dude, so what is I'm sure it's probably something unconventional because you usually do this to me. What is your favorite James Earl Jones role? Was it one of the ones in the segment here, or is it one of the more lesser known ones? Not that they're any less good.
It's Leslie Mann from Field of Dreams.
Oh, true. I saw you. I thought I heard you mumbling part of the speech.
I know that. I had to do a monologue for a speech class, and that was the one I did. Was that one?
Yeah, it's slapping, dude. I remember I saw Field of Dreams probably once, way back in when Kevin Costner was a thing in 92, 94, something like that. It's old. Like that movie is 30 years old minimum, right?
I think that was before he did Dances with Wolves.
Right, and that would have been 92. 91? Because Prince of Thieves was right after that, right? And that was
Prince of Thieves, I think, was before that.
Was it? They gave him a job after that? All right. I think
Dreams was 89.
89.
Yep.
Yeah. No wonder when I saw that probably at age 12 or 13 a few years later, it didn't have any kind of resonating impact, particularly because it wasn't fantasy or sci-fi. But dude, just going back and hearing that speech now, at the current age I'm at, current life situation that I'm at, dude, that speech hits. It really hits. That of course that would be your favorite one because it's got the baseball in it. Dude, I'm torn. Yeah. I'm torn between the Mufasa thing because dude, that's a legendary good dad character. You know what I mean? You gotta love, dude, he's got the playful thing where the kid's waking him up. I know exactly what that feels like. He's teaching him how to get the low crouch on Zazu for the pouncing. Dude, he gets the big sacrifice play, to save his kid after they have a little falling out. And then the bit in the stars where he's remember who you are. Dude, that's the hero power-up moment in everything I like. I mean, that's 30 years ahead of across Into the Spider-Verse where Miles is trapped in the chair and his dad, the cop, is talking to him through the door. And he's like, you're going to be great. Just, you go be you. And he powers up and fucking Venom strikes his way out of the chair, I love that kind of stuff. I don't care if it's sappy. I don't care if it's cheesy. Dude, pour on a double dose. I don't care. And then, of course, Vader, because that's my first Halloween costume I can remember. Iconic villain. I think Time Magazine one time had him top 3 all-time memorable villain behind like Hannibal Lecter, and I don't remember who the other bum was, but you know what I mean? That kind of character. And again, redemption arc. Who doesn't love a good redemption arc, man?
And then,
Love
and
it.
if you go through like everything in media, it's all like all the great things that he's done just as a person, as you know, just James Earl Jones, not any of the characters or who he portrayed, just the person himself, and all the great things he's did for people and charities, and like just this selflessness that he was. Is just, you can't go anywhere. He's in that circle. They had a Venn diagram of like all the people who you don't hate, and it's like Keanu Reeves, James Earl Jones is the only other person in there.
Dude, it makes sense, man. And passing at 93, right? Age 93. The man had a good run through some dark periods in the country's history. So here's a guy that in the middle of actual political strife and civil rights needing to be advanced, found a way to rise above. And I don't ever remember him having anything bad to say about people that didn't look like him, or that he couldn't get anything done, or, you know, he couldn't leave an impact, or that he lacked being represented in some way. And like, I don't ever remember hearing, it was like a very Morgan Freeman kind of vibe, very Denzel kind of vibe, where when your talent speaks for itself, you don't have to play any kind of card when you don't get hired, or when you lose a job, or when I saw a great post on this. It was on the Bounding into Comics Facebook page. I think both of us are on that. Somebody was one of those asking for a friend, but have the racists come out to celebrate James Earl Jones's death like they did the fall of the Acolyte. You know, and of course the comments like lickety split are like, no, because he doesn't suck. Vader doesn't suck. And I'm like, okay, see, exactly. The defense rests unequivocally one more time. Like, if you're good, we tell you you're good. If you're bad, we tell you you're bad. And if you're one of those 0.1% a-holes that really went in after somebody because they don't look like you, we don't need you here either. We really don't. We don't need you anywhere.
I've traded them for him any day of the week.
Dude, he's worth 1,000 of them. 1,000 of them. And if I had to sacrifice something meaningful to get that back, we'd be sacrificing something meaningful, you know, hands down. So that's James Earl Jones. And I love him in The Sandlot. And I wish there were like clips of him doing something other than like just talking to the kids about the dog and about the baseball at the end. But I couldn't think of anything to pull. But he was pretty dope in that role too, even though it was limited. And that's what I mean. When you're good, you can have a small role in a bigger movie that was about not being a former baseball player that's blind and have a lasting impact.
There's no such thing as small roles. They're just small actors.
Mm-hmm. I knew you were going to drop that. I knew you were going to bring that out. But yeah, I don't know what else we can say about James Earl Jones. He will be missed. I think weirdly, and kind of attached to a story we didn't do last week, I guess, just to wrap this segment up, is he was one of the first actors I heard I think it was in the last calendar year, where he did that thing where AI can replicate his voice. Like he signed off on it. Like he sold the rights to his voice in perpetuity to Disney. So his family can still generationally collect on, like if they clip in Vader's voice in Andor season 2 or something. Like, well, I'm not saying that that's a thing. I'm just saying that they can continue to profit from his work from when he was alive, which I think is good. And I think that's the way Hollywood needs to approach any of the de-aging, the deep fakes, the using the voice, because just because you worked for them in 87, they shouldn't be able to just, you know, AI enhance or algorithmically generate your likeness or your voice going forward. So I think if you're on the dotted line, that's good. His great grandkids can profit from Vader in perpetuity. I'm with that. So I am perfectly okay with that. Excuse me.
Yeah. A great legend will be missed. But today is a true day of remembrance with everything, you know, this day represents, as well as the passing of a true legend, one of the GOATs of all time.
And we throw away that term a lot. It's applicable here. You know, when the kids talk about goated, is it goated or is it
goated?
I'm just kidding, dude. Yeah, no, he's up there because this is a guy, like you said, he's been around, involved in like the biggest IP in the world. It might suck right now, but Star Wars is huge, dude. It's been, what are we on? 50 years, 60 years, something like that. My math is bad.
77.
You know, saying. All right, so it's old, right? It's bigger than Trek. It's big. I mean, I guess Doctor Who could maybe give it a run for longevity, but not in popularity figures.
Trek's been around since the 60s, so it's actually been around longer.
So for longevity, it's not the oldest, but I think the most culturally recognizable thing in the world is Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader with Yoda in the background. It's like Superman, it's like Spider-Man, it's like Batman. It's huge. I think it's bigger.
Yeah. Well, see, people watch Star Trek for the science fiction. People watch Star Wars as it's entertaining. You don't watch it for the science, because there is no
we don't watch
true
Star Trek
science.
at all.
Because you have
we don't watch it
you have starfighters that turn like they're airplanes.
Yep.
You have light swords that can cut through anything except other light swords.
And people's intestines, depending on their gender and character identity.
And you can move.
All right, I want to do it.
Feelings.
I don't want to do it. I promised myself we weren't going to do it. We're not going to do it. Segment 2, dude. I'm going to call the audible like we talked about. We started watching a new show kind of last minute. It came up on my Netflix bumper. Dude, can you queue up? Dude, I didn't even have a thing for Kaos. We were just going to talk about it.
You didn't.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. I thought I had an article just to remind me, but this show Kaos, starring Jeff Goldblum, it's popped up only in my Netflix banner over the last week, but I guess it's been out for a while. I don't know if the algorithm just caught up with what the other crap I was watching, like other supernatural stuff. I don't know.
I don't think it's been out all of that long. I think we're coming on.
Is it a September launch? And maybe I just wasn't paying attention, or maybe.
Let's see. Let's pull it up.
It's definitely season 1. It's new. It's not like it's something that came back from another network like FX or something. You know how Netflix picks up things random like Lucifer or something like that. But yeah, so I think it has 8 episodes.
Yeah, it came out August 29th. Was its release.
Okay,
so I mean, it hasn't been out that long.
It's like a week ago, right? Okay, so I just probably wasn't paying attention. Excuse me, dude. Sorry. So 1 season. I only watched episode 1. I dropped it on King Z a little late in the game. He watched we'll call it a third of the first episode, and it's a full length. It's an hour long. So right off the rip, I'm like, okay, it's programming for grown-ups. That's what I'm going to call that from now on. It's programming for grown-ups. And the gist of the show, as I can understand it, and I think the first episode did a fairly decent job in its entirety, setting up kind of the premise of what's going on. It's Jeff Goldblum as Zeus in the modern world, present day, like it's 2024, but it's a slightly different world because people are aware that gods exist, and they actually still, like the Greek pantheon exists, is active in mortal life. And the crux of the show is that Zeus realizes that they're starting to favor him less, and he's starting to age, and he has an existential effing crisis about it. Like he gets a wrinkle, and you're like, dude, chill the fuck out. You're Zeus. Like you'll be fine. But then they intercut with Prometheus, who's chained up to his rocket and his liver pecked out at one point. I don't know if you got that far. Let me know not to spoil. And he's basically like, oh no, he lies to Zeus and says, nah, you're forever. Don't worry about it. And then he breaks fourth wall because it's kind of a gimmick they're going with. And he's like, nah, I lied to him. He can totally die, and I'm going to make it happen. Right? So there's this big overarching revolt that's being planned on top of Zeus acting like it's Goldblum as Zeus is even weirder than when Russell Crowe was Zeus in Thor, Love and Blunder. And it's good. It's not Love and Blunder. It's actually kind of funny. Like, because he acts like a typical, like, actual boomer dickhead to his kids, a little bit to the wait staff. He's got a giant ego, dude. Giant by the end of the episode.
Which, I mean, that's Zeus. If you go by any type of mythology, that is Zeus. Yeah, and then Jeff Goldblum, I think Jeff Goldblum is a great actor who came into his ability and what he is later in his career than he was. Like, he tried to be too serious and like too much into his skill in his younger days, like when he's doing The Fly and like Jurassic
Which was
Park.
a banger, though.
It was. Of course, it was a remake of the classic Fly one. They did a little bit different with the his chamber that a fly flew in with, and he started getting it. But I think he's come into who he is as an actor more and more as he ages. I think he's gotten better with age. Unlike some of the other actors, like they just start cashing it in because they're a name and they just, they're there for the paycheck.
I'm thinking of guys, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do the same if I had the opportunity, but I'm thinking of guys like maybe Liam Neeson who get to about that same age bracket, and all of a sudden we're doing Taken movies. Like I don't think we're seeing Goldblum bust out the akimbo action pistols, like gunning at like Russian bad guys anytime soon. I think he's embraced a funnier side of what he can do. Like think about it. I know you watched The League. Him as Ruxin's dad on The League is effing hysterical. Being like it's Rodney Ruxin's the character. I can't remember his dad. It starts with an L. I can't remember what it was, but him as Ruxin's dad being basically an older, dickier version of him is really funny. And I think you're right. He's kind of settled into that. And like, I'm ready to watch more of this show. It sets up, this is what I'm talking about with the hour runtime. We need like a special breakaway graphic for this rant, right? When you have 50 minutes to work with, guess what you can do? You can set up B and C plots. And you know what those do? They add context. They develop characters that are all going to be important later. You know what I mean? Like, so it's refreshing to see that, because even with like, what would you say you actually got to watch? Like 15 minutes, give or take? Is that what you got to squeeze in?
I saw the part up until he got his birthday gift, a little bit after his birthday gift.
Okay. Perfect endpoint to watch. So we've already, if you've made it that far, you're already, a solid probable third into the episode, which means you get the Zeus crisis. You get the dynamic between him and his kid, the dynamic between his kid and his wife, Hera. You get all the crap on the human side with the chick that wants to leave her husband. You get all the other crap between her bumping into Billy Piper as an unnamed character yet. I'm guessing it's Cassandra, because she sees Prophet Oracle. She'd be seeing the future, because she kind of does in the episode with some of the interactions she has. So right off the bat, in 20 minutes, I've got the main plot and probably B, C, D, and E. And you know what? I can still talk about them now. And how often do I get to jump on after watching the show and not rely on you to like walk me through the shit that happened because it was so bored my brain shut off? You know what I mean? I'm digging the show for the first episode. When we're done here tonight, I'm definitely going to pop back on and at least watch episode 2 to see what's good. Because I think that we were fans of the Percy Jackson show. We both liked it. We both gave it really high ratings.
Another one in the Greek mythology
exactly
genre.
Exactly. This is what I was just about to make that connection there. Is I think this show is going to be a grown-up version of that show. Like, it's Percy Jackson 40 years in the future kind of thing. And we're just going to see a more complex, hopefully subtle, nuanced story written for grown-ups that just happens to feature the Greek pantheon as various characters doing hopefully interesting shit. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Because we all know, just even based on the Percy Jackson stuff, even if you're not an aficionado of Greek mythology, like it's like watching trailer trash at war within a family. Like, it's watching like blue collar people just bicker and war with each other nonstop. They're all prideful. They're all jealous. They're all egotistical, and they need the attention.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to episode 2 of that. I hope maybe that can be a weekly follow for us if we need a show going forward, like how we had just done we only did one on Terminator 0, but I think this show, after you get caught up, we'll definitely be able to dissect various talking points with like quality acting jobs, subtlety, hidden messages, the symbology of Greek mythology cooked into the background. I think you're going to get a kick out of this if you get back to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it, though. I don't think we get too much stuff like this. What's the last show you can think of that's in this genre, but written for grown-ups, but takes itself seriously? Like, I can't think of any.
No, because I mean, most of the time when you get something that's mythology based, mythological based, it is either a parody of itself. Like, you had the animated series Anopheles or whatever it was,
Crapopolis.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I watched a few of that. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, or you get Percy Jackson. I think was very well done. It's a good young adult book series.
Right.
So, and the thing is that they didn't try to make it adult, unlike what they did with Wheel of Time, where they aged everyone up so they could have more adult themes, which I appreciate that, because if they're going to do more adult themes, don't do it with the age that they were in the book, because they were like 12 and 13 in the book at the time everything started. So, yeah, let's age them up if we're going to go more adult themed. But with Percy Jackson, they didn't age it up. They didn't make it more adult themed. They kept it to as close to the story as a adaptation can. And I think with this is more of an original work. I don't think it's based off of anything else that I know of.
I didn't see anything either.
So they're trying to do something original. I appreciate it. So when I say there's something original, it doesn't have to be, bare bones from scratch. They got the flour out. They're picking their own flowers. They're growing their own vegetables. You don't have to be that original.
Slow motion threshing wheat.
You could take other stuff and just adapt a original story from it. But I mean, it does follow, from what I'm telling, from just what I saw and what I could take from the trailer and stuff like that, it is kind of following the same type of story of Wrath of the Titans, where Zeus is losing his power. There it was because people were stopped praying to him and they started praying to one of the other gods, which Hades was trying to steal at that time.
Right.
In this one, it just looks like they're just trying to destroy the gods, because of course we know Prometheus is the voiceover storyteller of this, who has been punished by the gods for years and having his liver eaten out because he gave humans fire. He favored the mortals over the gods and got kind of punished for that. So, and them trying to just destroy Zeus, which they gave the MacGuffin in this one at the very beginning. Him and Hera were talking about it. So, it could be fun. I'm glad something original coming out that's not just been overworked. I mean, Greek mythology is Greek mythology, but I was there watching this masterclass by Neil Gaiman, and he was talking about when you're coming up with ideas, you don't have to create everything from scratch. There's other ideas out there. He's like, take an idea that's already been made, and his example was Snow White. He's like, Snow White's story is she's put to sleep, Prince kisses her, and then she comes back. Well, what could that also represent? That could represent coming back from the dead. Who also comes back to the dead, lives, and who's very pale? Vampires. All right, let's rewrite Snow White as a vampire tale. So that's doing something original.
Seconds. Right.
Yeah, while he was doing the class, he was talking about this is some of the work exercise you do with your mind to try to come up with your own stories without rehashing other people's stories or doing fanfics or something like that. So,
yeah, I'm vibing with Kaos right now just because and we said this earlier, we were both pretty stoked by Terminator Zero, the anime version of a Terminator story. It just came out. It's also on Netflix. We recommend you guys go check that out. But like you just said, at the end of the day, even though they avoided a bunch of the stuff that makes the Terminator sequels not good, where they do just rehash, they use the main one where they had to send somebody back in time to save somebody from a robot, but they went in a bunch of different directions, at least conceptually after that. But it is just a rehash. So even though it walked a very fine line of being familiar enough to engage franchise fans like us, but also doing some new stuff to make me go, okay, so I haven't seen this exactly, so I guess that's good enough here. Kaos is different. So unless this is a novelization of something, or it's like Squid Games and this came out in like Japan or something, or Korea, and this is like the American version, I don't think it is, but you know what I'm saying? This seems like it's a Netflix series original. I don't think it's based on a book, because they usually throw that in the blur, based on the best-selling author by Kings, you know what I mean?
Based on the story or story by or...
Right, and I didn't see anything like that. So it's like you just said right now, this is a familiar idea with gods aging out of their place in the world. The Dresden Files, this is my weekly plug for the Dresden Files, does this really interestingly in the Dresden Files series. It's old gods like Odin are part of the world, but they're depowered and have different mantles now because their position in the hierarchy of like divine powers has been minimized as people have modernized themselves and moved away from old faiths, old cultures, where now, even though they don't specifically get into like the intricacies of everything, the white god of heaven on the ivory throne is what the book accepts as like the monotheistic singular god. But other deities exist from all over the world in the book. They're just smaller now. Kaos takes a kind of a stab at that, where when Zeus realizes that the monument that's being, I'm sorry for the spoiler if you didn't see it, the monument that was being revealed in Greece to him on Olympia Day had been desecrated, and he throws a
that was in the preview. That was in the preview.
Okay. So they hint at he is being favored, or the people are seeking less favor from him, even though he has a state-sanctioned holiday. They make an annual human sacrifice still, which is how you know this isn't exactly, it's not present-day Greece, you know what I mean? So we can see that diminishment that he's going through, but he presents it as an existential midlife crisis that anybody like your dad or your uncle would have, where he goes to Prometheus and he has like he snaps Prometheus off the rock, and they have a heart-to-heart by his cabana. He's like, oh, do I look old? Can you see the wrinkle? Can you see the spot? Like, he goes through that Jeff Goldblum nonsense, and it's hilarious. So thoroughly entertained, man. Thoroughly entertained. I hope you finish that episode soon, so hopefully we can get on a cadence to have a segment about Kaos every week and just do a quick breakdown. Because I was
you're
dating
also, so you're also talking about, and I talked about Neil Gaiman earlier,
Yep.
his American Gods book.
Yep.
Same type of thing, where you have the old gods and the new gods and stuff like that in this. Like you have entertainment as a god, because what is a form of worship, and then sitting in front of something and giving it endless amount of time. It's another take on that. So
yeah, and that show ran 3 seasons. So I mean, hopefully,
well, the book is
version.
the book buries the series, even though the
I
series,
heard
the first season was pretty accurate to the book. So
I heard it fell off. They did the whole stretch things out too long thing, but
yeah,
that's a whole separate show. But this is Kaos on Netflix. Kingsley said it just came out August 29. You're going to get a Winter Wolf recommends on this one, at least for episode 1. It's intriguing enough to pull me in. I resisted the binge earlier because we had other stuff to do, but I could see myself banging this out in a couple of days. It looks like it's that good. And if you have it up before we switch topics, are there 8 episodes or 10? Do you happen to have that in front of you still? If you don't, that's cool. I thought
I just closed it, but I believe it's 10 episodes.
Okay, dude, even better. Because the other thing we hate on this channel, more than we hate short episodes, are abbreviated episode counts. It's almost as bad as short run times.
Now, if you want to know what I'm watching, because he just started watching Chaos, he's pulling me in. But one thing I'm watching, that the 4th season just dropped, and no, I'm not doing my bear bit.
I know what you're gonna do.
It's Only Murders in the Building.
Murders in the Building. I knew it.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, 4th season just dropped. I'm currently in the 3rd season, so I'm still catching up to watch the 4th season. It is the weekly drop format, so we're back to network TV for streaming on this one, which I am not a big fan of if you've watched any of our shows. I do like the Netflix model. I do love the Netflix model. I just do. I don't know why.
I do, because it's instant gratification, dude. Because when you actually get a day off, your lazy ass can sit there and watch 6 episodes of a show before you get the honey-do list. That's why, bro. Come on.
And I grew up in the 23 episode seasons from September until May, and then waited week to week, and then you're waiting through the Christmas holiday, and it's just
I know sweeps. I know. Dude, I'm just saying. I think I long for the days where literally everybody had to watch Game of Thrones and Walking Dead on Sunday because some shit was getting talked about at work on Monday morning.
Yep.
Like, I miss that. I miss having that job in that time period. You know, it's a culturally binding thing in a secular world where not everybody goes to the same church or goes to a service at all. You know, it's I don't want to use the word replacement for that because I think that's callous, and it's not even remotely on a scale. It's not as heavy as that, but it provides a similar function. And I think absent that is how you get people cut off from shared experiences. It's why whenever I hear death of movie theaters, I'm like, dude, no, that sucks. Like, you know, like Endgame wouldn't have been as much fun at home streaming.
Well, it's
Lord of the Rings would have been as good at home.
With the 24-hour news cycle, especially in sports, and like everyone, and everyone has an opinion, it destroys Barstool Sports. Where you're at a Barstool and you're debating who is the best home run hitter of all time, Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, Mark McGwire. Who is the greatest home run hitter of all time? Is it Barry Bonds? Should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame? Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Have his ban finally lifted and put him in the Hall of Fame?
Put him in.
So
he didn't bet on his team. Put him in.
He never.
We're not a sportscast.
That's what they were trying to get him on.
I know.
But the one evidence of him actually betting on his team, it was a day they actually had a day. They were actually the day off, and he was the manager. Wouldn't you know if your team had a day off if you were betting on them? I mean, you're the manager. You know when your day's off.
Dude, I mean, you a good one would. Some of these chuckleheads these days. Dude, I'm gonna let you call an audible for topic 3 because we got 2 things left to do. Right, we have Horror Talk 2 and the Disney Star Wars switching gears thing. What do you want to do first?
Let's go ahead and just knock out the Disney part right now, and
Good
then
idea.
we'll get into the other part here in a second. Because I think that will take a little bit longer. I think this will be a little bit less, and that is a little bit more of a segment and a half of time to nail that one out. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen.
This is the one we had the the article for the Gamer article, I think is where it came from. And really, we just need this up as the visual, like the gist of it. And you guys can check this out for you. Oh, I'm sorry, it was Movie Web, not Gamer.
Yeah.
And the headline's really all I just needed
There
up
it
there
is.
was if you there we go. So that's perfect right there. Disney now reportedly planning to make less Star Wars shows. And the only reason I even wanted to touch on this today, we know that they only have one show left for this year. They're doing Skeleton Crew, and that's December. Beyond that, if I recall correctly, the only thing that's absolutely in the bag and done is Andor season 2. Everything
it's not
else
done
is
yet.
a
They're still
rumor mill.
shooting.
Okay. All right. So not in the can, but in the bag. All right. There are people being paid to do stuff that isn't pre-production. They're in the middle of making that. Right. Everything else is a rumor mill. You know, you got to take everything with a grain of salt, regardless of what side of fandom you might be on. You know, Acolyte season 2, probably not happening. Ahsoka season 2, couldn't tell you. Every week I get another story that's like, Tamora Morrison talks about whether or not there'll be Book of Boba Fett 2. Ewan McGregor just made a video in his car asking fans to hashtag bring back, you know what I mean? We get these stories everywhere all the time. So I think it's interesting that we catch this story here where, you know, you guys can check out the story for yourselves, but I'm fairly certain it mentioned, you know, a Disney insider mentioning something of a course correction. We're going to scale back efforts. We realize we might have oversaturated the streaming market. They don't get a lot of return on these shows. The Acolyte numbers bear that out. I'm not going to dump on the show satirically. I'm just going to say every show after Kenobi that isn't The Mandalorian has had something like a 40 to 60% drop in viewership. That includes Ahsoka, which was everybody hoped that was going to be an absolute banger. It was not. It did not draw numbers. I'm not saying it was objectively bad. It almost broke King Z's soul in his interpretation. He was not a fan. I think I actually liked that one a little bit more, but it was still very much a D, no pun intended, a D plus. Oh, I said the thing. No bueno on that. So if these guys are talking like Marvel, because you talk about Kevin Feige all the time from that story that came out a few months ago, where he's like, we might have done the same thing, maybe having Secret Invasion right before Echo, right before She-Hulk, right before Hawkeye. I mean, these shows were coming out like kids change their shoes, you know, to go, you know, do new outfits at school. Like it was like every quarter there was a new show. And all that did was build this top heavy thing that obligated you to watch all that top heavy crap to watch the next thing. Otherwise you're like, what the fuck is going on here? So if Star Wars is doing this, is it too, I think Marvel will be okay doing that. I think Star Wars has done too much significant brand damage, especially after the Acolyte, for this to matter. I think people are checked out, and they will be for a good long while on this brand. What do you think about them changing course? Hit it. Go with it.
Yeah, I think we need to miss Star Wars again.
Yep.
We need a good hiatus. Kind of what Marvel did here, like this year. One Marvel movie came out this year?
Is it even what Marvel movie came out?
Deadpool and Wolverine.
I mean, I don't even really. I mean, that's to me, that's not even really them. I mean, I know it is them, but it doesn't.
Yeah. It was more of a Ryan Reynolds type thing.
This is what I mean. It's an island. You know what I mean?
It's actually
itself. But I mean,
the
what else
launch film for the new phase, as it was the death of the old phase and the death of
True.
all of their old characters.
True.
That was the whole purpose of this, was to start it off in a new track and let Ryan Reynolds just make a movie that people will enjoy. Seeing two characters that they've wanted to see together since the very first Deadpool. You asked how I got my own movie. It starts with, and it rhymes with Pulverine.
Dude, he ain't kidding, ladies and gentlemen. But I think did they do? I don't even remember what other Disney Plus shows from Marvel were there this year. Was Echo this year? That feels like it was forever. Was that February of this year?
Last year.
I don't even remember, dude. That's how terrible and how long ago that was.
That's the thing
you didn't watch that.
But if you look, there was like 3 other movies that were supposed to come out this year. There was 2 shows that were supposed to come out this year. One got they're when they realized that they had, they're having a problem with quality, and they fired their special effects director, and Kevin Feige's put his hand down. It's like, no, we're not doing this. We've built so much trust. We have to build, and we've damaged that trust. We need to build it back, and we got to make them miss us a little bit. And that's what they started. And that's why I'm excited for Daredevil Born Again, because they scrapped it. They started over, and then they listened to people whose that project meant was near and dear to their hearts, namely the two main actors who plays Finch and plays Daredevil. And like they brought back characters that they weren't going to bring back, and like because they were going to have a huge backlash from that, and then bringing them back.
You're talking about Karen and Foggy, right?
Yep, Kevin and
they were not in the first iteration of Reborn or Rebirth. Reborn. Yeah, they were not. They were not part of that project, and I think you're right. I think it was D'Onofrio and is it Charlie Cox as Daredevil?
Yep.
It was those two guys that were like, listen, we're going to bring them in. We want the writers from the show. We want some of the writers from the first Netflix iteration of this show. I think we want the stunt team. We want locate. Like we want to do that show again.
We want the fight coordinators back.
Right. Oh, too. And because they were sorely missing from the last. Dude, I know you didn't watch Echo. Some of those combat scenes haunt my dreams. They were bad. Awful. I mean, but I'm still not up on Daredevil yet. It's still D+, so I'm still cautiously hesitant.
And to be fair to the Netflix, not everything they did was gold, and the Iron Fist choreography for a martial arts film was completely hands down one of the worst
Defenders
choreography for it. Actually, I actually had fun with Defenders. The fighting wasn't all that great with, of course, Iron Fist, but
admittedly, I only watched the first 2 episodes of that.
Luke Cage and Daredevil were straight solid in that, and I think the Luke Cage series is very underrated. That was a fun series. I think it deserved a 3rd season to see where it went. I think it left too much of a cliffhanger at the end of the 2nd season. I never really got into the Jessica Jones character, even though Jessica Jones actually ends up being Power Man's wife in the comic book. So
it wasn't bad. And I was kind of out on that when they announced it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to run over you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just the actress. I just really never got into her. Like I've never really seen anything that she's in that I actually enjoyed, so that's why I was out on that show.
Breaking Bad. She was only in there for like 4 episodes, but still, I think she's my flavor.
But I think because they have the was it the Grogu movie coming out in 2025?
Yeah, no Grogu.
Yeah, which they started.
They are working on, and I was going to say they are working on that, so that's not a rumor. That's a thing. You know, it is a rumor though. The Rey thing not happening.
I've heard it's in a rewrite. Like they're still working because they're trying to change it up a little bit where they have more of the Jedi Academy in it.
I bet they are. I haven't heard the rewrite word yet on that movie. I'm interested if you've heard that. Okay, all right, we'll take that. I've heard they have nothing.
Well, they just have they never really had anything. They've never talked about what it's going to be. Mostly everything we've read is speculation from fans. There has been no big press release or like it is the new Jedi Order. There's nothing like that. Like she's starting a new Jedi temple. That's all speculation. All they have is that they have Daisy and that they were going to do a movie with her in the future, and it's supposed to take everything forward away from the Skywalker saga and into the future of the new Republic, because they have to start over again.
There were a couple of other bits of news on that movie though. They did have the director attached to somebody that doesn't have any genre experience.
That was also just rumored. They were never signed.
It's on her IMDb, I think. As a project in pre-production. Like she's attached to it. She was on stage at one of those.
Rogue Squadron's still on Homegirl's IMDb.
That's fair.
Remember, IMDb is not ran by the industry or the studio. IMDb is ran by the individual.
True. So I mean, anyway, it was out there. It was a big enough story that she was attached, and I'm pretty sure I saw pressers of her talking about being involved. And then the other bit was the writer that they had attached, Stephen Knight, is currently working on something else. So he's not currently engaged in a write or a rewrite. That could be an outright rumor altogether.
And what the thing is they might take their time, like let him finish that.
They should.
And then come into the writer room like two years from now and start writing the movie. And then,
like you said, make them
4 years from now and make us miss Star Wars. Let it disappear from the zeitgeist for a while.
Dude, I totally agree. Because I mean, remember what happened? Like after Solo came out and got demolished because it was hot on the heels of all the backlash of the crap that happened before that. Solo's an absolutely mid movie. It's not great. But did
It's
it
not
deserve
bad,
to lose
though.
money? That's what I'm saying. But did it deserve to lose money? Probably
No.
not.
No,
You
I
know, I
think
mean,
it
if
should at
fucking Rise
least
of
made its
Skywalker
budgets
got
back,
paid,
if not
of
doubled
course.
it.
Right. But you know what I mean? And like for all the crap that the guy they cast to be Han Solo got, he wasn't that bad.
No.
You know what I mean? It had Chewie, it had Amelia Clark, it had Paul Bettany. It should have been okay. But
And
it got
had
dunked on because what happened elsewhere.
Danny Glover as Lando, and I think he did a fantastic job as Lando.
Oh yeah, Donald Glover, not Danny. Danny Glover's Lethal Weapon. He's too old for this shit. See what I did there?
Yeah.
I did the thing.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. We need to put some distance between Star Wars. We're gonna put some distance between us and this topic though. Hopefully they change course and figure it out. Because I want to give us enough time to get through our last segment, because this is one we have fun with last week. We're just gonna get into horror talk, part 2, chapter 2, part D. I don't know. I don't care. And the idea. Oh, never mind. I forgot we had that.
Yeah, we have a whole. And it crashed again.
And it crashed, which means the best part got left out. Anyways, there was a scream at the end. I don't know. Whatever. So last week we were just talking about kind of the how horror is sometimes a springboard for folks getting into the industry. We always talk ROI. Hopefully it doesn't do the scream thing in the middle of me talking now. That'd be great. The ROI is good on horror movies, and if you have any kind of talent, you can usually stepping stone your way from one thing into something bigger. This week, the idea for the horror stuff that I wanted to talk about, and maybe next week you can come up with kind of like a horror talk topic, you know what I mean, for the segment, is sequels. And it popped into mind because as I was endlessly scrolling through all the streaming options we have, and we have like 9 of them between us. Do you have Shudder, by the way?
No, I don't have Shudder.
That's a horror movie specific streaming one that I've seen out there. But I think it's a Tubi version of Shudder. You know what I mean? So like 80% of the catalog is 80% of the catalog. You know what I mean?
Like the one I showed you on Tubi.
If I don't want to embarrass anybody, but like maybe we should get that clip just to the woman at the beginning, where she's chastising her family. And anyway, so sequels popped to my mind because I feel like horror in general as a genre is the only genre where we just accept endless sequels because we're in on the joke of the sequel. Like we get it that it's more of the same. We don't need you to change things up. There's a reason there's 12 Friday the 13th movies. You can change the location. You can change how Jason looks a little bit. The mythology is completely convoluted, but nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like I've never had that argument online on like a horror fan page where if I got a minute detail of Freddy's origin wrong, where people want to come for my throat. Like if you say Luke's original lightsaber was green instead of blue or some shit, you know what I mean? Like you just don't get that in horror. Like why are horror sequels generally just accepted? Like, what do you think about horror sequels in general first, I guess?
Well, I mean, some of them are really good. I think as it goes on, it gets kind of, they go more comical. You have to think, especially like the 80s slasher films got really comical as they went on. I think more modern sequels try to get scarier unless you're Saw, and then Saw just how much gore can we throw on the screen? Right. And I don't think gore's horror. I think gore is gore. It should have its own genre. It should not be classified in some of the other horror movies. First one, perfect. Psychological thriller horror movie, perfect. 2, okay. 3, you're going over the top. And then, Bob the Clown, and was it Saw 455? Somehow he still hasn't died from cancer.
No, it's
it gets kind of redundant. Isn't it Bob the one who's riding?
No, the guy on the bike. Comments, somebody, please. The hell was its name? It's got a name. It's something the doll. Why can't I remember the doll's name? Got the stupid spiral on his cheek. Anyway, dude, when you were talking about
Billy the Puppet,
right? You were talking about like the 80s slashers just getting comical. I was like, dude, what popped into my head immediately was you could have any genre of horror movie in the 80s and then just put in space, and it happened.
Yep. Jason X.
We need Freddy in space, and I think we hit the trifecta. We get Freddy, Jason, the Leprechaun went up there, Hellraiser went up there. I don't know if Chucky's been to space. Can we get Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis on a space shuttle and just fire their old asses up there? But I think people it's not that the bar is set lower for horror. I don't think that's fair. I don't like when horror gets dunked on as being any less valid as a type of movie, because the same kind of work ostensibly goes into making that kind of movie as anything else. You need a script, you need chemistry, you need people that have some kind of talent to drive a good one, like Saw. You just can't get any ass hats off the street to pull off the performance. You need those guys,
You
those
gotta
girls,
be handy with the
especially the
steel.
girls.
You know what I mean? Earn your
I just
keep.
said that earlier to my brother. It was pretty dope. We were playing Space Marines. I was like, mount up. It was great. It was, dude, you got to check that game out. It's some shit. It's some shit. But a side note for another segment. But yeah, like modern horror, I think you're right. They do tend to lean now into loud noises and more shit splattering on the screen. And I can't remember for me, because I say this one all the time. Like, I think last week you asked me what's my current favorite, and I said Sinister, like that. Like, I'll always, until something better than that comes along from me, like that's going to be the modern choice. And that's going on like 10 years old now. But like we saw Smile came out last year.
Which is probably one of the better horror films that's come out in a while. And the sequel's coming out
next month. Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, I was just going to say that. Like, you took it right out of my mouth. It's been almost 10 years, and it's been everything in between has been a bunch of schlock that I've seen that didn't really hit for me. Saw Smile. It was a little unnerving. It was kind of interesting from like the healthcare perspective of seeing how the systems can fail people when they're having those kind of breakdowns and they're looking for help, but nobody believes them. I'm not saying you got to believe everybody telling you they see the demon coming. It's probably not the best thing for you, but I'm looking forward to that sequel next month. I don't care if it's a sequel next month. It doesn't look like they're using any of the original actors. It's the demon from the first movie, survived its ordeal. It's going to destroy somebody else's life. It's got a bleak looking tone, just like the first one. Like, not like, I don't need every horror movie to have a final girl that makes it out, you know, and that's one of the ways I think good horror can, maybe that's why I like Sinister. Nobody gets out of that one, you know, like maybe horror movies can be suitably bleak. I mean, that's just kind of my flavor. But where do you stand on? Do you get any return on your investment as far as the sequels go, or are they too predictable for you to enjoy?
No, I think there are a place for sequels if you're telling a new story in that genre. Let's take the Conjuring universe. Okay. Conjuring 1 is one story. Conjuring 2 did not rehash Conjuring 1's story or a continuation of the story. It's a different case that couple went and investigated. Yep. So totally different thing. Still a sequel, but a totally original story. And then you had the spin-off of The Nun because it was introduced in The Conjuring 2, which gave its background. Now The Nun 2, I think, is that where it's just trying to get more money out of something else. Then you have Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It, which once again, same couple, totally different story that they case that they went on. Annabelle was introduced throughout the Conjuring, did their own movie to tell the Annabelle story. Once again, a different case, spin-off, but still original. So that's where I think the sequel could play in. Now, back in the 80s, you just started throwing numbers in front of everything. Lethal Weapon 1, Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3, Back to the Future 1, Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3. Then you had like Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
We're going to be here for a while, guys. He's going to count all the way up to like 8 on this one.
So that was the 80s model, and it worked because you just wanted more of that character. And back in the 80s, you're coming out of the serial killer era, where that's where I think the slasher films fit. But after a while, you can only kill sinful teenagers so many ways before it just gets boring. And once again, I said it got more comedic as it went. Like you had,
especially Freddy.
You had Jason Goes to Manhattan, and he has that one where he decapitates the guy, and then his head goes into the trash can, and they like play like the buzzer sound of basketball. Mm-hmm. And then you had Freddy, who just got completely comedic, especially in Dream Warriors, because he was like he had the kit.
Dream Warriors was okay. Dream Master is where it really went off. Part 4 is where
Part
it went
four
off
is
the
when it went
rails.
off the rails, but Freddy became comedic.
The tone, yes,
And-
yeah, absolutely,
yes.
yes.
Because it was like you had the
was
girl
nuts.
who, because they were in the sane asylum for kids type thing, and they had the girl who was obsessed with TV, and it's time to your big break.
Welcome to the prime time, bitch.
Yeah. And then you had the kid who was handicapped, who's like in a wheelchair. He's like, and he's electrocuted and wheels. But remember, when you wake up, it's back in the saddle, and he sends the wheelchair down.
Spiked wheelchair, dude.
Yeah.
That movie, incidentally, has one of the goriest kills that is burned into my brain of all time. He gets a kid in the insane asylum. No, that's the Q-tip through the eardrum is Freddy's dead. It's the kid.
No, it was also in this one because you had the deaf
Q-tip?
kid. Yeah,
deaf kid was Freddy's dead. I don't remember another deaf kid. Yeah, Carlos.
It was Freddy's dead.
Yeah, dude. This one had. Let me tell you this one. Right, this one had one of the kids. I think he was the first. He was the first victim in the second act. Like he was like when they realize some shit's going down and they need to listen to Nancy. Right, kid's asleep. Freddy gets him to. We're gonna be careful on YouTube, even though nobody's listening. He does the self-deletion attempt by, I'll just say, opening up his forearms.
Mm-hmm,
all right. And Freddy uses his veins like a marionette to walk him into jumping off a building. That is burned into my brain, dude. I can't unsee it to this day. When incidents like that happen, either in another movie, I have to actually look away or I gag. It's that burned into my brain. It's impacted my professional career in healthcare. I've said this before. If you get shot in the face, I'm good. You take one across those. Can't do it. You're on your own, like, dude. You're bleeding out.
That is the one that had the attic too, and like the mouth started opening up from all the track marks. And it's like, oh, what a rush!
See, now you're digging it. See,
and that's the problem with some of those sequels.
Yeah, see, that's where it went. And you're right, though. It went off the rails after that because I think right up until that, they were telling slightly different stories. First one's origin, that's fine. Part two almost is borderline like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, where they're trying to do something completely different, where a new kid moves into Nancy's old house and finds her diary, but his experience with Freddy as the antagonist is completely different. Freddy wants to possess him to enter back into the real world.
You got the body and I got the brain.
That was disgusting. That was another great effect. But and then it had, and so it was its own thing. And then 3 tries to do the requisite expand the mythology thing and do the whole Dream Master thing. I wanted to add to that. I think the Friday
and also brought Nancy back.
Yes, that's what I had Heather Langenkamp as an adult now, working with troubled kids as a sleep psychologist. Right. The Friday the 13th sequels that are the best, unequivocally, right, are parts 3 and part 6. 3, 4, and 6 are unequivocally the best in that series because they focus on a cast of characters and they do something different than random people getting hacked in the woods, walking around calling each other's names. Like I think about the one, part 4 in particular, Corey Feldman is like the kid and his family. The college kids come to party next door, but there's relationships that occur between all of these family members that occur between the college kids, that occur between Corey's family and the kids. So it creates something memorable. And then again in part 6, where it's Tommy Jarvis grown up, where he goes to Jason's grave and wants to put him away once and for all and accidentally brings him back. That character has agency like a real movie through that whole movie, where he's trying to do different things to resolve a problem he created. The other movies, like you said, that they get comically dumber. Like you remember Jason Goes to Hell? Like all of a sudden, if you eat Jason's heart, the spirit of evil possesses you, and then you got to find a female host because it's a slug or something, and it crawls up the hoo-ha. I can say that we're almost at an hour. Hellraiser in space, stupid.
Jason X.
Dude, I like that.
It's okay. Nitrogen. He just wanted his machete back.
Awesome. That teacher was dumb and he was nailing a student. He's a scumbag.
I saw a great meme today. It had Malcolm X, and then right next to it had Jason X, and it was like that's a bold move for the sequel.
The crossover, I might be interested in seeing that. But yeah, but we accept cheese like that from happening from our horror movies because I think it gets offset with enough other. And I'm not a big gore guy myself outside of Saw, and I think that's just I'm married to the original trilogy of those. I enjoyed all 3 of those because of that core kernel of a story. But modern stuff like like the Terrifier. Don't care. Not gonna waste my time. Human Centipede shit. Don't care.
No.
Not for me. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so that's like you're just doing this to gross me out and call it horror, like you said. But I mean, none of that really resonates with me. I mean, it's great practical effects work, I guess, if it is, but if there's not really some mythology, Freddy, child molester, burned by the parents after the state let him out. Jason, kid that drowned in a camp, yada, yada, yada. Michael Myers, spirit of evil incarnated. And then they mess that mythology up later. You know, Pinhead has a unique mythology. Chucky, very unique mythology. Like, all those things are interesting enough to pull me in and go along for the ride. You know what I mean? In a way that I don't think action movies, dramas, superhero stuff anymore. Like, I think I'm over that stuff, like the bar I've raised for those, but horror just gets away with it, man. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you have the one who did the sequel correct, which was Scream, where they, you know, because it's breaking the whole,
it rewrote the meta.
Horror thing.
Right.
Yeah. The meta, that's the word I was looking for.
Yep. I knew, I got you, bro.
Different rules in the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had, you know, the rules of the reboot and the rule.
Did it have rules of the trilogy in 3? Was that actually a thing? I think it did.
Yep.
I could hear it in my head.
Rules of the trilogy, and then it was rules of the reboot, and then it was the rules of the was it the spinoff or something like that? But they
when 5 came back, right? That the character that gave that speech, that was I think that was the reboot speech. Was that?
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was a different rant in 4 because the killer in that movie was Sydney's cousin or some shit. It was family. Yeah. It was about, I think it might've been about influence. Actually, I think that's what it was. They staged the final kill to be on like a YouTube or a precursor to YouTube chat room kind of thing. And I think it was about influence, but they get away with it because they're, like you said, they're at least interesting premises when they get them done right. But,
yeah. And then once again, people go and see it because they're starving for good horror film, and the franchise, and the name has built trust. We talked about trust earlier, and that name has built trust, and that's one reason why it also gets that pass when it comes to a sequel.
Yeah, true. It's like I said, it's funny. Just as a metric, it just doesn't apply. Like if tomorrow they said, there's I guess at this point, because we're retro and nostalgic, like a Lethal Weapon 5 might do okay. Like the new Bad Boys movies have both done okay. Like 3 and 4, they both done all right. Beverly Hills Cop, I don't think did as well because it came to Netflix, but I think people seem to have enjoyed it, like the nostalgia retro aspect. All right, dude, I was humming the theme song. I did the Peter Griffin version though. I should have got a clip for that, but I didn't know we were going to mention it. But I think we've hit our time today, King Z. So you know what to do.
All right. Well, see ya.